Maya woke up to find her head throbbing and her eyelids glued shut. Panicked, she tried to touch her face, but her arms wouldn't budge. She couldn't even wiggle her fingers. She tried to scream. Her mouth wouldn't move either. Her whole body was paralysed. Saliva pooled at the back of her throat. She couldn't swallow it. She felt like she might drown. In fact, she realised there was a tube inside her mouth, stopping her jaws from closing. She couldn't spit it out. Terror clawed at her chest. The air smelled like dish soap. Maya could hear the soft scuffle of shoes on linoleum, the wheezing of some kind of machine, and a distant beeping. Some kind of alarm. Whatever the danger was, she couldn't run away. I don't want to die. The thought brought tears to her eyes, tears she couldn't blink away. Please don't let me die. Look, she's crying. The voice was female and startlingly close. Maya would have jumped if she could move. A male voice said. Certainly some kind of discharge. Oh, watch your step just here. Is it possible she's waking up? Maya? She could feel the man leaning over her. Can you hear me? Yes, Maya screamed. I'm here, help me. A hand gently smoothed her hair. Sweetheart? The woman sounded nervous. Maya's body remained frozen. This was like a terrible video game, the kind where you're frozen, waiting while the other characters talk. I suspect it's just a reflex, the man said finally, but I'll get a nurse in here, run some tests. I'm at a hospital, Maya thought. Whatever was happening, someone was taking care of it. She would be okay, right? But with her whole body turned to stone, it was impossible to feel safe. You're a wonderful physician, Dr. Creed, the woman was saying. Thank you so much for taking care of my daughter. Maya felt a flicker of hope. Mum was here. Why hadn't Maya recognised her voice? Could something have happened to her brain? You're paralysed. Obviously something's happened to your brain. How had she gotten here? She remembered how hot it had been on the bus home from school. Her uniform had felt sticky, her ears burning under her hat. Had she already been sick? She had sensed Jacob glaring at her. She'd told the teacher that he copied her biotech essay, and he was mad. Maya had gotten off the bus one stop earlier than usual to avoid him. She had bought a mint choc chip ice cream from the stand on the corner and walked towards her house while she ate it. Then the neighbour's kelpie had barked at her, going nuts at the chain-link fence as she passed, even though it usually ignored her. And then nothing. A black hole where the rest of her memories should be. Have we met before, Miss Hayes? Dr. Creed was asking. Maya was a Hayes, Mum was a Mrs. Hayes Burnett, but she didn't correct him. No, I don't think so. You must treat so many patients. Maya tried to wiggle her toes, her eyebrows. Nothing. Did your daughter do any gardening today? Gardening? No, I don't think so. Why? Well, there's no damage to the spine and no swelling in the brain. The injuries to her face... My face? Maya tried to touch it. Couldn't. Are consistent with a fall, but they don't explain the paralysis. I was wondering if she might have eaten a plant from the garden. Maya would never do something like that. Her older brother, Cedric, was always mucking around in the dirt. She preferred playing video games in her room. I guess it's possible, Mum said slowly. No, it's not. Maya would have been grinding her teeth if her jaws weren't frozen. This felt like the time she had been wrestling with Cedric and fallen off the couch. The living room floor had knocked the wind out of her. Maya didn't remember what they'd been fighting about. Who was the favourite child, maybe? She only remembered the inability to get any air into her aching lungs. She had blacked out before Mum found them and broke up the fight. Maya was definitely the favourite child after that. This looks to me like alkaloid poisoning, Creed said. Possibly from a common weed known as Nightlock. It has a sweet smell, so kids sometimes eat it. Adults too, who should know better. Cases like this are my specialty. Mum's voice wavered. Is it fatal? Maya held her breath. It can be, Creed said, but we started artificial respiration early. Under these circumstances, the patient usually makes a full recovery. I think Maya will be okay. You must have gotten to her very quickly after she ingested the plant. She's lucky. The student ID card we found in her wallet says that her blood is B positive. Is that right? Yes, I think so. Maya released the breath she was holding. Then she realised she could hold her breath. She could control her lungs again. She tried to speak, but her lips and vocal cords were too stiff. No sound came out at all. "I'm just glad she's in such good hands," Mum was saying. "Doctor?" A new voice. Male, younger. "What is it, nurse?" "There's some kind of disturbance downstairs. I think you should come down." "What kind of disturbance?" An alarm wailed. A recorded voice echoed through the corridors of the hospital. "Intruder alert! Initiate lockdown procedure! Intruder alert! Initiate lockdown procedure!" "What's going on?" Mum demanded. "I'm not sure," Creed said. But Maya knew. She hadn't eaten any plants from the garden. She had been poisoned. The neighbour's kelpie hadn't been barking at Maya. It had been barking at somebody else, somebody following right behind her. Mum had gotten Maya to the hospital in time to save her life, but now the poisoner was here to finish the job. Maya concentrated on her breathing, fast, then slow. She could use it to warn the others in Morse code, except she didn't know any Morse code, and no one was paying attention to her. "I'll shut these doors," the nurse said. "Thank you." Creed sounded like he was on the other side of Maya's bed now, near Mum. There was a grunt, a groaning of hinges, and a thump, then dead air, the echoes of the rest of the hospital cut off. Maya tried holding her breath as long as possible. Someone would notice if she stopped breathing altogether, right? "Don't worry," Creed was saying. "This could be a drill. Perhaps someone burned something in one of the kitchens. Or..." There was a pause. "Or what?" The doctor sounded reluctant to share this. "Or it could be a stalker. Former patients sometimes become obsessed with nurses or doctors, people who showed them kindness in the past." "They're not stalking a doctor," Maya thought. "They're stalking me." "Does that happen?" Mum sounded uneasy. "It has happened, yes." He sounded like he was speaking from experience. "But don't worry, they'll give us the all clear soon." "I'm scared." "Oh, it's okay. Come here." "No, come here." The air in Maya's lungs ran out. She exhaled and took another deep breath. No one paid any attention. A phone was ringing. "It's triage," the nurse said. "I'll see if I can find out what's going on." Maya held her breath until stars sparkled at the edges of her vision. Her vision. She could see! The world was blurry and shapeless, but it was there. Her immune system must be breaking down the poison. Maya's eyes watered as she fought to keep them open. If someone glanced in her direction, she wanted them to see that she was awake. Surely her mother would look over, sooner or later. "I'm in that ward right now," the nurse was saying. "Who's trying to get in?" Maya could wiggle her fingers now. She used them to drag her hands across the bedsheets, like limping spiders. Her left hand found a ribbed plastic tube. When she bumped it, she felt the movement in her mouth. It was connected. It must be the breathing tube. The tube vibrated a little. It sounded like it was attached to the whirring machine on the floor near the bed. Maya didn't need the breathing tube anymore, but she didn't yet have the strength to grab it and pull it out. Her other hand reached the edge of the bed and slipped off. Maya's whole arm flopped downwards. "Maya?" Creed said. "Are you awake?" Maya groaned. It was a thin, weak sound, but she was relieved to make it. The nurse was still on the phone. "That doesn't make any sense. She's up here." Maya blinked furiously, trying to clear her vision and make the world solid. The dim, swirling blobs became faces and shapes. Dr. Creed was younger than he had sounded, with ears that stuck out from under his thick black hair. He was wearing hospital scrubs rather than the lab coat Maya had pictured. The nurse was a stooped man with an upturned nose and a thin gold chain around his neck. He was frowning at the door, the phone pressed hard against his ear. Maya slowly turned her head. It seemed to weigh as much as a car. She found herself looking at a humming box with a blinking light. Her breathing machine. A pair of feet stood next to it, in black high-heeled shoes. Maya lifted her gaze. The feet were attached to a middle-aged woman with red lipstick, a blonde fringe, and bright blue eyes behind thick glasses. It was not her mother. "Oomph!" Maya said, the tube still in her mouth. "Maya?" Creed said. "It's all okay. You're safe." "Oomph!" Maya insisted, still looking at the woman. "Let's get that tube out," Creed said. "Nurse?" "No, that's what I'm saying." The nurse was still on the phone, approaching the bed. "The girl's mother is not downstairs. She's up here with us. I'll put her on." When he went to hand the phone to the woman, she sprayed something on his face. The nurse screamed and fell to the floor, clutching his eyes. The woman whirled around to face Creed. She raised the spray can she had drawn from her handbag. "No closer!" Creed backed away, carefully stepping over Maya's breathing tube. What are you doing? You don't know? The doctor's eyes widened. Alexis, how did you get in? With her free hand, the woman pulled off the blonde wig and her glasses. She still didn't look anything like Maya's mother, but now Maya recognised her. She had sold Maya the mint choc chip ice cream on the corner. The ice cream must have been laced with Nightlock. I knew I'd met you before, Creed was saying. Maya still couldn't lift her arms off the mattress. Instead, she rolled her left hand onto its side. With all her strength, she nudged it across the sheets, bit by bit. She couldn't run or hide, but as a gamer, she knew that you never ran away from a boss fight. That was never how you won. You won by using some feature of the environment against the much stronger enemy. I'm very sorry about this, Doctor, Alexis said, but it was the only way I'd get to see you again. I told the other staff to stop admitting you, Creed said. You're not sick. I am. Alexis approached the doctor. No one else can see it, but an amazing doctor like you. You've poisoned an innocent child. You've attacked one of my nurses. I had no choice. Alexis sounded frustrated now. The headaches are coming every day now. I can't eat. I can't sleep. And I think there are messages in them. Someone's trying to warn me about something. You need to help me. Maya wrapped her fingers around the breathing tube and squeezed. She would only get one shot at this. The nurse moaned on the floor. My eyes! Shut up, Alexis snapped. If you're having visual or auditory hallucinations, Creed began. No, you're not listening to me. Alexis waved the spray can as she advanced on him. They're not hallucinations. They're... Maya pulled the breathing tube towards herself as hard as she could. Her muscles were half numb, but they had just enough strength. The breathing tube went taut between the bed and the air machine. Alexis tripped over it and hit the ground, her spray can wildly spewing toxic mist. The tube was wrenched right out of Maya's mouth, scraping the inside of her throat raw. Sticky tape ripped off her cheeks, stinging her skin. The spray can bounced into the corner. Creed tried to grab it, but Alexis grabbed his ankle. He stumbled and hit the floor. The mist from the spray can settled over everything. A sharp, spicy odour burned Maya's nostrils and stung her eyes. Alexis was crawling towards the can. Maya couldn't let her get to it. With the last of her strength, she rolled out of bed towards Alexis. Maya landed on her feet, but her legs wouldn't support her weight. She hit the floor, coughing. She flung out a hand and managed to grab Alexis's jacket. No! Alexis screamed, trying to wriggle free. Creed grabbed the spray can and stepped back out of reach. Stay down, he told Alexis. Maya, are you okay? The door burst open. 2 security guards stormed in, and a voice shouted, Where's my daughter? This time, the voice was instantly familiar. Maya knew it from the first syllable. Before she knew it, she was wrapped up in her mother's arms, her real mother. I've got you, I've got you, I've got you, Mum whispered.